Welcome back. Well, about 10 years after Hurricane Katrina and an organization that formed in response to it, a locally formed charity is celebrating a milestone. Here to tell us about it is Robin Peters, Executive Director of the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here.
It's great to have you. We're also joined by Chief Carlos Aviles with the St. Augustine Fire Department. Chief, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again. So I appreciate you being here. Chief, you weren't there for Katrina, but I mean, it was a moment that many of us well remember, a struggle faced not just by residents in New Orleans, but by the first responders that were trying to save lives and to get in there. Um, you've experienced certainly some large scale issues in St. Augustine during
hmm
storms. What have you learned about those kinds of responses as a first responder? What's needed, and what limitations are in place?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things to take away from it. It is difficult now looking at it from the administrator's role, when those that are tasked with being there to help people need the help themselves. You know, we've certainly been the recipients of some of that assistance in St. Augustine in the aftermath of uh, Hurricane Matthew and Irma.
Mhm.
And we've also had the opportunity to reciprocate that across the state. Just this time, actually, I believe it was this week last year. Um, I took a task force out to Dixie County in the Big Bend area of Florida in response to Hurricane Helene, and just sort of augmenting with their fire department and their public safety folks there in Dixie County, providing services. So it's like mobilizing local resources here from Northeast Florida, deploying into that region, and then trying to set up services because it gives those folks an opportunity to take a break and then to go home and sort of deal with their own disaster because they're dealing with it as well. And so that's really how the foundation came to be. Those folks went out there to offer services and then realized that there was this incredible need to help first responders that were also impacted.
How has your experience or your experience with the folks that work for you changed how you relate to somebody in a post disaster situation, particularly another first responder, just based on what you've seen and what your team has experienced?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer. I mean, I think that there's a lot of emotions that go into it. It is very difficult to keep a pulse on what's happening at home when you feel like you're responsible for taking care of other people. And so there is a need to, as soon as help can get there, you need to take advantage of it and really communicate to them like it's okay for you to go. Like this isn't a dereliction of duty. I want you in the right mindset and headspace. Go take care of home, come back here, and because we've got days, if not weeks of work still ahead of us.
Mm. Robin, we know that anybody that's been through a storm and had to evacuate, always, no matter what has been done damage wise, the first thing people want to do is go and check on their home. They want to go and see where they live and assess for themselves. And it really is no different for first responders, even though they're very often constrained, working around the clock at those same times.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And there's so much support from the communities surrounding the first responders as well, and that's why the equipment they have or needs to really be addressed because, as Chief Carlos would even say, I think there was an ATV is a good example that they were able to get into flooded areas or boats. Those sort of tools are so important.
And that's something that the foundation helped provide for this local fire department at ATV.
Yeah, so we've provided an ATV. We've also done boats in the Jacksonville area. And I think what's so important that we forget, we want those first responders to have the tools they need. So when they're under the stress and dealing with these unimaginable disasters, that having the tools in the right hands, it just helps them protect themselves and also even the aid that's coming in, other departments that'll come in, they need that equipment as well.
Yeah, I mean, the large scale disaster we mentioned that sort of started the Firehouse Foundation, was Katrina.
Yeah.
And in that situation, it was, I mean, not only was the town destroyed, but basically all of the gear that these first responders would typically use in a situation like that was also destroyed or damaged. And so, um, initially arriving there, it was like, well, the firehouse folks were bringing food and water and some supplies, but they quickly realized that the need was going to be just, an order of magnitude greater.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the founders of Firehouse Subs and the foundation, they said it was like a bomb went off. They had never seen such devastation, and it was a game changer for them. And even though they were there and exhausted, when they came back, that was the first thing they did was just to set up the foundation. And they always say there is no department that doesn't need some kind of gear. And the first grant award was actually a used fire truck for a community in Mississippi that lost everything.
And so we mentioned that this is a big milestone that the foundation is celebrating, having reached $100 million in aid to. This is across the United States now. I mean, even though the foundation was formed and the sub restaurant was formed here locally, it has now and it includes 50 states in Canada.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's absolutely correct. So it's 100 million in both the U.S. and Canada. But we are now in the U.S. alone more than 100 million because last week we had a board meeting which allowed us to grant an additional 93 grants worth $2 million, and that's just throughout the U.S. And I know three additional grants locally. So it's really an amazing foundation, and our big thing is we just wish we didn't have to deny any. I think that's the hardest part of what we do.
Yeah. Well, Chief Aviles, what is the need that remains for most? I mean, you're on the board of the foundation now, in
Hmm.
addition to your work in St. Augustine. Has that given you a different perspective of the overall need um,
Yes.
situation?
So I'm very blessed to not just sit on the board and to see this life-saving equipment get to go to departments that are in need. I've also been, the recipient of Firehouse Subs grants. And so, one of the things that we like to try to explain to folks is that when you call 911, the reality of that crew or that truck having every single piece of equipment that they could possibly need to help you in that situation is just not the reality of the world that we live in. And so, with more fiscally constrained areas, rural areas, areas that still largely depend on volunteers, um, a lot of these agencies are making do with what they have. And that, especially over the last 4 or 5 years in this sort of high inflationary environment, the cost of providing those services has gone up. And so the foundation serves as a bit of a stopgap to help those departments with needs to get life-saving equipment in the hands of those first responders.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you. Congratulations, Chief Aviles, Robin Peters. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.